Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This is one of those picture this in your mind's eye. Now, if you're driving, close one eye and think about it. Keep one eye on the road. If you're sitting at your desk or your table, just kind of close your eyes and think and picture this. Here we have a picture of the Pope in the middle, standing between President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry, all three of them. And it's one of those bubble cartoons where you can read the Pope's mind, and he's saying, "Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right." Here I am. I can't get that song out of my head. How true. The Pope said it very well. Good morning, everybody. Here we go with Zeb at the Ranch and Kate Smith. And God bless America. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly, 734-6969. Did you have a good Mama's Day, Gina?
It was okay, just kind of piddled around, as it were. So,
well, we had a wonderful Mother's Day for Deanne. She was very happy with it and received all kinds of gifts from different people, Jake and Toby, of course, and then we went out to eat dinner with some wonderful, wonderful friends, and then we came home and fought the birds.
And how is that battle going, by the way?
I'm losing. I'm going to tell you after we do the pledge and everything, okay. But I am absolutely going to sit in my chair after this program, have Deanne subdue me with handcuffs and duct tape. I can't handle it anymore. I'm going crazy fighting those birds. Now, this is a true story. I got to tell you this real quick.
Okay.
On Friday night, we cleaned 2, not 1, but 2 great big nests out of the engine, okay? Vacuumed everything from the engine with a shop vac. Everything. And the next morning, my dear Gina at the station, they had 2 more nests in there. I don't know what to do. I've tried mothballs. I've tried rock music. And the birds are just going bebop, bebop. And they're coming back. I can't get rid of them.
Wire mesh.
We better go to the pledge. I'm distraught.
Yes. Okay. We've got Al on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
All right, Al, please, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Al.
Zeb, can I read something to you?
Real fast, Al. I'm running out of time.
From the colonists who rebelled to the soldiers of today, my thanks be to you. I know not what else to say, since the words I do not have to give the tribute that is due. So a simple, heartfelt thanks, sincerely I give to you. Thanks to our American heroes, whose devotion is second to none, whose courage and braveness alone caused many battles to be won. Only because of you and the price you're willing did pay, Only because of you, Old Glory still flies today.
Amen. Amen. Al, can you get me a copy of that, please? I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much. How true. Our veterans, the best anywhere in the world. It's time for the weather forecast, brought to you by Save on Shells. And if you don't have a shell for your pickup, you'd better get in there to talk to Anthony and the crew today and make sure that everything's protected. Your tools, your saddles, your tack, your groceries, everything with a shell from Save on Shells. 1835 Overland and Burley. I'll tell you more in a moment. Here's Michael Rogers' weather.
It'll be sunny with a high of 68 for today, overnight low of 44. Look for a high of 82 on Thursday. There you go.
That is short and sweet. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Brought to you by Save on Shells. Anthony and the rest of the crew, they've got those new ARE shells. Oh, I went by this weekend and look, they've got every color. It looks like an Easter egg hunt. Honestly, they've got all the different colored shells and all the different models, and they got fantastic selection of used shells. Don't look any further. Why? Because they're the best. Simply put, installation, parts, and service. You stop in 1835 Overland and Burley, the very best to have. Save on Shells. How do I know? I bought one from Save on Shells. 1835 Overland and Burley. Number to call, 312-1525. Well, I certainly hope all the mothers in the audience had a wonderful day yesterday. Deanne had a great day. She just absolutely loved it. And I got to say, I had a good time, too. We went out with some very, very good friends yesterday for a brunch, and it was really, really tasty. And, of course, the friendship was fantastic. Thank you very much. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, they've got prepaid gift cards. What a great gift to give your relatives, your neighbors, anybody that you want to do something nice for, and just they can take their rumply crumplies in there and they'll come back looking brand spanking new. I tell you, they're the best cleaners in the universe. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see Kevin and Cindy today. Really good folks. Oh, and naturally, when you say good folks, you got to talk about our friends over at SafeLink Internet. 16. They've been around for 16 years. It's hard to believe. 16 years in counting, and they offer the fastest, reliable internet, and they've got a track record to prove it, too. So I'm telling you what, why don't you just go to their website, SafeLinkInternet.com, and get on the program with SafeLink Internet, Idaho's number one choice, 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000, SafeLink Internet. Absolutely the best. I'm going to probably say something that will offend some, but that's okay, because in this country, we're losing our right of free speech, and we're losing the right of expressing ourselves, and we're losing the right of being able to think and put it into words and have a dissenting opinion. Blacks, or if you prefer, it's still, there's nothing wrong with this word, Negroes, or African Americans, however you want to term them, fine. Be PC, politically correct if you want to, but basically I refer to them as Americans. If they live here and are citizens, they are Americans, and I'm not going to put any hyphenation in there. I'm not going to put any color distinction. Well, I just think that's rude, okay? They're Americans. And I am absolutely appalled because some of them, and I hate using that terminology also, are racist against themselves. I saw something this weekend that absolutely was appalling. A great senator from North Carolina is Tim Scott. And I've listened to this man speak, and I think he's extremely eloquent when it comes to expressing himself and his ideas. And he's being criticized by another black congressman by the name of Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. And he said that Tim Scott, this is Clyburn talking of Scott, he said basically that the way he votes, he doesn't vote black. You know, when you represent someone as a state senator, or, in the case of Clyburn, also a congressman, what difference does a person's skin color mean to a situation when you should be voting for the masses? What's best for all the constituency in your state? And to come out and play the race card against another black or Negro or African American, I find that appalling. And you talk about racism. Racism is alive and well in this country only because of some of these zealots like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and this Congressman Jim Clyburn. And also, I hear another opinion coming on the air because I can hear her breathing. Good morning.
It's not about voting black. It's about voting American.
Yeah. What happened to that?
I don't know, but when I vote American.
Yeah, but
it has nothing to do with skin color.
Yeah, but let me run this by you. Did you or did you not hear the comments by Congressman Jim Clyburn? They were appalling, and basically he was calling Tim Scott and Uncle Tom without really mentioning the words, and he ran him down and said that your voting record is not a black voting record. Gina, when you're in Congress or you're in the Senate, your vote should be for the constituency and not a color-bonded vote.
I completely agreed. You know, we are supposed to be a melting pot, so it's not voting one color or the other color. You're voting American, and you're voting for your constituents because you are a representative of your constituents. They tell you how to vote. You vote that way.
Yeah, but why in the world? Now, tell me this honestly, and I got accused on a telephone call last week of, here we go again, some bigot out there in the audience called me a racist again, which just really upsets me. But who's playing the race card here lately? Who really is playing the race card lately?
And I hate to say this, it is those of color that are within our congressional delegation, not specifically here in Idaho, but across the United States.
Yeah, or Eric Holder, or the president himself,
or Al Sharpton. It's those that are of color are the ones that are pulling the race card.
Does it seem to you, and it does to me, and for those out there in the audience, think about this. Does it seem to everyone that perhaps the Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons, the only way they make money for their organizations is through dissension? That's it. If there's no dissension, they're not going to make a dime, and they're going to fade away, which they should have a long time ago. Yes. But it's through this dissension and strife. Dissension and strife are the key words to get them money in the coffers. And Gina, we should be above that. I mean, for the last, since the 60s in Selma, Alabama, we should be against that and away from that.
Oh, we should have risen above that a long, long time ago, and they just continue to stir the pot and keep that sentiment alive and well. At least they're trying to, so like you said, that they can keep, number one, themselves in the limelight, number two, so they can get money in their banks and in their pocketbook.
Absolutely.
That's all of what it is. They're just trying to be insightful instead of trying to, like a reverend should be, heal the masses and bring everybody together. They are doing more dividing than they are uniting.
Absolutely. We're going to have this good word for Congressman Mike Simpson and be right back. Stand by.
Personal injury lawyer Brian Smith is trained to say anything to win. Yet Idaho newspapers called Brian Smith's negative attacks against conservative Republican Mike Simpson false, patently false. Smith is using negative false attacks to hide the truth about his debt collection business that's collected millions, targeting veterans, the disabled, seniors struggling to pay medical bills. Smith's debt collection business has charged interest rates as high as 99%. 99%! One bankruptcy attorney reports Smith's debt collection business triggered as many as half of all bankruptcies filed in Bonneville County. An Idaho judge said Smith's fees were excessive. The debt collection business unconscionable. A peer called Smith inflexible, a brute, a bully. The Better Business Bureau gave Smith's debt collection business an F. False attacks, targeting the vulnerable, predatory interest rates. Personal injury lawyer and debt collector Brian Smith is out for himself, not you.
I'm Mike Simpson, and I approve this message, paid for by Simpson for Congress.
Thank you very much. And right now, Denny's Restaurant. Oh, man, I cannot wait. Next week on the 22nd is our next lunch bunch. And we're going to be over at Denny's Restaurant, and that's at 611 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, they've got a menu that will knock your your socks off. It is delicious, whether it's for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I'm telling you, Thomas and the rest of the crew over there at Denny's restaurant, fantastic service from people that really care. The food is exceptional, and believe me, you're going to enjoy it. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anytime, all the time. Denny's restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Can't even say my name this morning, bit my tongue. And we'll see you over there on next Thursday, the 22nd. Hey, by the way, also our thanks go out to our friends at Valleywide Home and Ranch, your local home and ranch store at 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Ho, 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 my! All your spring headquarters for lawn and garden needs, whether it's fertilizer, tools, equipment, clothing, anything. And don't forget, they got a new batch of chickens that are arriving at Valleywide every Tuesday. Here a chick, there a chick, everywhere a chick. Hanging baskets, they've got it all. And Fair Times around the corner, they got all your feed for your livestock, too. So be sure and stop in and see the folks at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Really good folks. This is another subject that just really bothers me this morning. And I'm going to have Gina weigh in on this a little bit. We have gone so far over the cliff to try to be overly protective of what some term endangered species, that ridiculous and dangerous are the words that can be used in this story. I caught this in the paper this weekend about a New Jersey fire siren that was silenced because an osprey decided to build a nest on the tower by the fire siren. Now listen to this. This is how ridiculous we've become. A pair of ospreys has quieted a fire alarm in one New Jersey shore town. Now, these raptors have built a nest inside the fire siren at the Spring Lake, New Jersey headquarters. And listen here, by law, the nest cannot be disturbed. Ospreys are listed as a threatened species in New Jersey during their breeding season. So, here's the dangerous part. The siren has been turned off for the spring and summer while firefighters and paramedics rely just on pagers and cell phones to alert them of emergencies. Somebody could die over this because
pagers and cell phones aren't working.
Yeah. Gina, this is absolute lunacy that we're partaking in. And the siren is going to be shut off for the rest of the season until the ospreys decide to leave. Why not just go up, clear the nest out of there, and let the doggone ospreys nest someplace else? But no, they can't touch this. Human beings and lives are at stake because of a doggone bird building a nest up on a tower.
I don't understand why they can't. Logic dictates to me that you can get up there, gently move the nest, especially if there's no eggs or babies in it, you can gently move the nest to another locale.
By law, they cannot touch that nest until at least September 1st.
The EPA?
The Endangered Species Act. I'm just livid about this. We've gone nuts in this country. Human beings don't matter anymore. Safety doesn't matter anymore. Your child's welfare doesn't matter anymore because they've become subservient and secondary to some bird or animal.
Well, that and the government just wants to raise our children anyway, but, come on. Logic would dictate you build these osprey another nice little home nearby, but away from this siren, and they'll live happily ever after.
Look at the spotted owl issue. Look at the salmon issue. Look at the wolf issue. Look at the water issues. Look at the snail darter issues. Look at the little smelt in California. And human beings always take the back seat and suffer because of this ridiculousness.
Well, if you go back in time, and it's always a survival of the fittest. That is the way Mother Nature intended things to be. Species come and go in throughout the ages. There's a ton of extinct species due to nature.
Yep.
Nothing that man did. So why should we how do I want to put it?
Suffer.
Pretty much. Why should we suffer and make all of these concessions for a bird who, they will move on?
Go move the nest, and the bird will acclimate himself to a different location, for heaven's sakes. You know what's going to happen here, and I pray that it doesn't. But without that siren sounding a warning, think about the danger zone, like you mentioned with the pagers and the cell phones not being in working order, and the danger to human beings. But, that's all right. We could have 20, 30, 100 people die because of an osprey building a nest upon a warning signal? Are you kidding me? Is that how dumb we've become?
Apparently so. Okay, so just on the hypothetical.
Gee.
There's a fire. The fire burns down the cell phone tower. So all of the officers and, the volunteer firefighters and the EMTs, well, of course, their cell phones and their pages aren't going to work because the cell phone tower was burned.
Yep.
So what are they going to do? Get out there with a bullhorn?
I'm just after fighting these. I do, but I got. Tell you what, caller, I've got about a 3-minute deal here to where I have to get these commercials in. We're in political season. I have to do that. If you'll have the patience to stay with me, I'll be back as quick as I can. Ladies and gentlemen, Ken Menzel wants your vote for Minidoka County Sheriff on May 20th. And by the way, they're going to have a candidate get-together with Ken Menzel this Thursday, May 15th, from 7 to 9 at the Paul City Office Fire Station in Paul. Of course, Ken Menzel enforcing the law based on respect for individual rights and a commitment for the safety of each citizen, and he always wants to maintain the highest ethical performance standards for himself and the entire staff. Ken Menzel for Minidoka County Sheriff. Vote May 20th, and this is paid for by Elaine Stevenson, Treasurer. Also want to say thanks to our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. All the light. Go to the light. Maybe the birds won't roost. And get the outside lighting, lamps, CFL bulbs, incandescent bulbs, everything along with your cords, cord ends, and fuses at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Nobody does it better than Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. All right, now here's what we have to do. We are going to quickly take a call, and then I'm going to come back with Travel Loop Supply and the Ag Minute. So caller, real fast. Go ahead, please.
Well, Zeb, when I was growing up, my folks and my grandparents always taught me an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Who is the Nimrod that let the bird build the nest there to begin with?
Well,
had they seen the bird coming in, sounded the siren, or done something to discourage it, the bird would have built a nest someplace else.
Well, here's the thing that I would have done, and I know that there's going to be the do-gooders out there in the audience, the members of the Audubon Society and the Endangered Species, etc. I'm like you. I would have taken a high-powered hose out there and discouraged that bird from building there. They will move. They will go to another location. But if that person would have been caught, or group would have been caught, naturally the Endangered Species Act would have come into play, and there would have been all heck to pay. But the point is, Doug, we're going nuts over different things where human beings don't matter anymore.
This is very true. This is very true. And these people that scream and holler for that, oh, you're being mean to them, they've never had swallows try to build nests on their house.
Amen. I know I've had that happen. If you'll think back 4 years ago, it was dangerous.
It was, but I mean, if you let them build, they're going to keep building, but if you knock them down a few times, they go build someplace else.
Amen. Doug, I'm sorry to be so rude, but I've got to get this break in, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West 203 south of Hebron, with my dear friend Jim McCall and the rest of the crew, and they've got all your hydraulic hoses. They can clean your air filters. They've got the bolts and the bolt bins, all the metric and standard bolts. Have bin will travel. Have bolts will travel. Well, have bin and bolts will travel. Okay. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West, 203 south of Hebron. The number to call, 438-8730. They deliver the goods. It's time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
The U.S. International Trade Commission says unfair trade practices by the Mexican sugar industry have hurt U.S. sugar producers and American taxpayers who support the nation's sugar program. The ITC's decision follows the U.S. Department of Commerce April 18th approval to investigate Mexico's alleged dumping of subsidized sugar on the American market. The Commerce Department will fast-track its investigation and could make a preliminary ruling by August, when it might also set up temporary tariffs on Mexican sugar. Those tariffs would be based on estimates of how much Mexican sugar has benefited from unfair trade practices. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brous.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Brought to you by our friends at Lennox Home Comfort Systems through Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Calls are welcome. What are your thoughts about the Endangered Species Act and how absolutely idiotic it's become? We'll talk about that more in just a moment. By the way, Bill Baker is seeking first term as Jerome County Commissioner of District 1. His government expertise comes from his 35-year career with the BLM, where he held the position as Twin Falls District Manager and was responsible for the annual budgets of over $20 million. He will actively work toward attaining a significant short-term milestones while guaranteeing meaningful economic development and stability for all the residents of Jerome County. Don't forget, when you go to the polls on May 20th, vote for Bill Baker, first term as Jerome County Commissioner in District 1, paid for by Bill Baker from Jerome County for Commissioner. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This protection, take a fire hose out there at night. At midnight, okay? And I know there's going to be the lunatics out there from the left that are going, oh, you're going to go after the birdie. You're going to hurt the birdie's nest. I don't care about the birdie. I care more about the safety of human beings. Common sense. Take the doggone hose out there and get rid of the nest. The bird will move. And this Endangered Species Act, look at that. The Delta smelt in California. What that's done to destroy the irrigation of the crops. Look what happened with the spotted owl. The doggone owl moved to another tree. Look at the other issues that have been so ridiculous. And here's a New Jersey fire siren, meant for human beings to be safe and understand that there is a conflagration coming. Well, they can't turn it on, they can't use it because of the doggone ospreys? Please. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, I know. It's everything they want to put their hands in, they all mess it up. Like these fishes coming up the Columbia River and our stuff. Leave them alone. They know where they're going.
Amen.
But I got a question here for you, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference between Spike Lee or Harry Reid and the owner of the L.A. Clippers?
What is the difference between them?
Yes.
Spike Lee, I've never liked him. I find him to be a very profound racist. Harry Reid is a gentleman that plays off of negativity, and that's his key motto. It's if something's wrong, he'll elaborate on it. And the owner of the Clippers, Mr. Sterling, made some comments in a private conversation that were assumed to be racist. So I guess that answers your question or not? That's right. Harry Reid and Spike Lee said their comments in public, and they still have their jobs. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And, here, I'm glad you brought that up, because here is his wife, by the way, and I'm talking about Sterling right now, Al. Yeah. She is told that she is going to be forced and coerced into selling her 50% of the ownership of the Los Angeles Clippers. My response is, why and how? Yeah. I say go for it, girl, and keep what you got. I do, too. I don't think that the NBA is that big or tough that they can tell somebody in America, somebody that didn't do anything wrong, has not said anything wrong, you have to relinquish your holdings, and I hope she takes them to court and defeats the NBA. Okay, that sounds good. Now, you said you had trouble with swallow problems. I did, too, for about 3 days, and I solved it. Get you a owl figure, hang it next to where they're trying to build that nest, and they'll just leave. I know what I'll do. I'll put up a figure of owl Butler.
That's good.
See you later, buddy. Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
All right, goodbye. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away, please. I want to remind everybody about Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie, with a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stand, stimulating root growth, and microbial activity. And the water savings alone on the irrigation water will pay for the cost of the product. I'll tell you, Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie. Larger crop yields, better quality. Get a hold of your fertilizer and crop dealer and advisor today about Penetron by Maisie. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. I can tell you, it's just so sad that basically it was a fraud to begin with, all this endangered species, as far as these raptors are concerned. You know, they blamed it on DDT. It was not DDT or the chlorinated hydrocarbons at all. That, there's three big myths there. In one, it was carcinogenic, that it built up in the environment, and that, it just didn't. The facts were just never there. But that the EPA, William Ruckelshaus, should go down as the largest person committing genocide in the history of the world, better than Mao and Stalin and all the rest of those, because he consigned, by banning DDT, millions to an early death in the Africa and Asian countries and so forth.
Absolutely.
It was so effective, but, he banned it and never attended any of the hearings.
That's right.
The whole thing was a farce from the very beginning.
Well, the story you're bringing up about DDT, we've talked about before on this program, and it's one of the biggest, it's not funny, but it's one of the biggest jokes to mankind that DDT was stopped. And yet the mosquitoes, the malaria, the death, the devastation reigned supreme. And we as a nation weren't smart enough to turn it around because we were cowed and led by the nose by silly, stupid environmentalists.
Well, the whole thing started with Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, and it was full of half-truths, innuendos, just flat lies, about like the political campaigns going on now. But I can guarantee you, Ruckelshaus was the first administrator of the EPA. He came from the World Wildlife Fund, which funds most all of the other subordinate environmental wacko groups. And some of them are pretty prominent in name, as you well know. But we've reached the point where, of course, we worship Mother Earth. We worship the creations, not the Creator.
That's right.
And humans, like you say, come second. And the whole thing is just absolutely unbelievable. And the story you've been talking about now just is, the tip of the iceberg. Look at our food costs, 400,000 to 500,000 acres. Because of some of the trash fish in California are dying, trees are dying, the food's not being produced because of the Endangered Species Act.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian, as you know, I'm way behind on my commercials, but I always appreciate your input because you're spot on. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. God bless.
You have a great day.
Thank you.
Very much.
He's right. He's absolutely right. We're suffering so that a snail or a little delta smelt, a little bitty stinking fish about an inch long might get caught in some of the irrigation down in California. We got to shut the water off. And here's a fire alarm for this New Jersey area. Well, we got to turn the fire alarm off. Oh, we can't have a warning system because it might upset the ospreys that build a nest up there. Take a hose and knock the nest down. They'll rebuild, I promise you. And they'll do it in a healthier environment. Why in the world are we committed to stupidity? Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, wants to remind you he's a representative from District 27 to go vote in the primary election on May 20th. Scott is very concerned for Idaho and its growth and prosperity, and he's concerned about the future of the United States. Amen, brother. Yes, sir. Everybody do your patriotic duty and go vote on May 20th. Stand up and let your voice be heard. Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, paid for by Representative Scott Bedke of Oakley, District number 27. 888-445-87. By the way, too, I want to remind everybody that Brad Little for Lieutenant Governor, vote May 20th. Idaho is an example of what conservative governance looks like, reflecting work ethics and values others crave, and that's why we need to keep Brad Little as Idaho's Lieutenant Governor. He's an Idaho rancher and small businessman, and he wants your vote to be returned to that office of Lieutenant Governor again. Lieutenant Governor Brad Little says please vote for him on May 20th, paid for by Senator Dean Cameron to re-elect Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Really a nice guy, too. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We have committed ourselves to stupidity in this country. We really have committed ourselves to stupidity. And we're being coerced into believing in climate change or global warming. And I've read so many books by some very, very well-known climatologists, and they're just absolutely shaking their heads at the idiocy of the American public to follow Barack Hussein Obama and others into this abysmal pit that we're going to be led into by climate change. It's going to turn us back into cavemen with hardly any money to exist, let alone try to heat our homes, feed our children, etc. And we're being led down that path. There's even an op-ed writer for the Times News that boo, 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 boo. This guy's really off the wall. And they believe in this like it's a religion. Like it's a religion. And it's so sad that people you think are halfway intelligent aren't. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental. Now, when last talking to Eli, we were told that they were in need of some really, and I want to stress this, good mechanics at all three locations of Berry Equipment and Rental on Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, and Highway 30 in Burley. Now, believe me, I know these folks, and when they say they're offering competitive pay and good benefits and a fun place to work, it is all three sections. So please get a hold of them today, and they can help you out, all right? And don't forget, they've got all the Coyote tractors, and they got all the Doosan loaders and excavators and the Bobcats, and oh my goodness, they've got it all. Renting or buying, it's there at Berry Equipment and Rental. Three locations, Twin Falls, Jerome, and right there, the new one on Highway 30 in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
My friend.
Just imagine if we took controls over all the animals, took the controls off, and said just let them flourish, let them migrate and do whatever they want. You try to go up in the South Hills and you'd probably be overrun by bears and moose and everything else. You would have starvation, animals starving all over because nobody's killing them or keeping them under control. That's the same way it is with all these other things, birds and the rest of the things we've got.
Well, Tony, I really don't care if there's a little baby in dire need of getting to a hospital, if there's a family in jeopardy of a fire, or there's a fire that breaks out that could jeopardize an entire neighborhood, and there needs to be a warning system. I mean, I really don't give a rip about an osprey's nest on a warning tower. Get it out of there. Human beings are much more important than an osprey and its nest.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And it's just like this global warming thing. This change has been going on for millions of years, if anybody's ever read up on it. And there's nobody, including Al Jazeera Gore, that's going to change that and put the charge for the cost of this thing on the taxpayers.
It's just another method of control. It's just another method of saying you are going to buy into green energy. It's just another method of taking more money out of our pocketbooks. It's just another method of making us go back in time, not to be progressive, but to be regressive. And I, for one, am not going to stand for it without fighting back. These imbeciles that promote climate change have got the combined IQ of a bicycle spoke.
Well, a large portion of this country is still asleep, Zeb, and I don't know if we're going to be able to wake them up.
Well, I'll set the alarm. Thank you, Tony. God bless you.
You're welcome.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We're going to do a quick Michael Rogers weather update. And then I've got another little story I got to get on here real quick. The weather is brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley. The number to call, 678-6996. The doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. I'll tell you more in a minute. Here's Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Son of a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. Always remember the number one weather fact that is always true, no matter what. And you don't need to have a degree in meteorology to find this out. There's always some form of clearing after a storm, and that's what you're going to get for the next 72 hours. Partly cloudy all the way through Wednesday. 62 for the high today, 68 for the high tomorrow, 70 for the high the day after tomorrow. And oh, by the way, if you're keeping score at home for Thursday, look for a daytime high of 82. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. And, of course, don't forget, strains, sprains, breaks, headaches, infections, skin care, rashes, sore throats, everything taken care of right there with our friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. 678-6996, Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. Here you go, folks. I'm telling it like it is on this program, and if you're offended by that, fine, listen to Barry Manilow. 99.999% of the NFL is probably straight heterosexual players, okay? Heterosexual. But now, everybody, all the sportscasters, all the ESPN announcers, all the newspaper writers, why, they're just going lollygags over the first gay football player, Michael Sam, coming out of Missouri and being drafted by the St. Louis Rams. This is so sick and so perverted. You know, hey, how come when Tim Tebow said that he was a Christian, why did he get ostracized? Why did he get nailed to the cross? Why did he get literally pushed out of football? Why did he get absolutely blasphemed in the media because he said he was a Christian? But this guy, or whatever you want to call him, Michael Sam, a gay football player. Oh, he's the second coming. Oh, he can walk on water. Oh, he knows where the rocks are. I'm fed up with this kind of attitude. The media is hailing and honoring something that is perverted. And other players, this is what's driving me nuts about this story. Other players that are Christian-based players are saying, wait a minute. His sexual pervertedness shouldn't get all the headlines. He shouldn't be standing up and being a poster boy. And the owners of those football teams are coming back on these players and saying, you can't say that. You can't say that. We're going to fine you, and we're going to take you into a seminar so that you learn how to accept. This is ridiculous. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I had another subject, but now that you've brought this up, I was thinking about this Boise State player who was literally homeless and living under a sheltered picnic table, and he didn't have a blanket, and he would sit up and sleep, but he never gave up. Now he has a full-ride scholarship, and he will start in June. But in the meantime, because of some technicality, he may not have a home until June, when he comes to Boise, where he will have a place to live because of his scholarship.
Yeah, well,
because of this these scholarships are so technically touchy.
Yeah, whoa.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but let's stick right to the directness of this. This absolutely perverted sexual act called homosexuality, which is perverted, is being lauded by the media, and they're putting this once absolutely unknown football player at the head of the line, this Michael Sam, and I find that as sick as it gets, Randy.
Well, this is my point. Saturday I was watching the draft, and my grandkids are running around, and then, every day, it was Saturday on the news. It was gay marriage in Arkansas and Michael Sam. And I says, there's hundreds of football players who have been through hell and who finally made it to the NFL, and they don't just cry on stage because they're babies. They cry because it's been an emotional run for them.
And the repulsiveness.
It's all the attention. I'm going, what about these other guys who've been through hell and they finally made it to the NFL and they get a contract and they could build a house for their mother? Is that not a better story?
Amen. And the repulsiveness of when he got the phone call for the draft to turn around and put a big lip lock on his boyfriend, it was enough to turn my stomach so I couldn't enjoy Mother's Day dinner yesterday.
Well, that's exactly right. See, it's just sickening. And they go along, you talk about conspiracy theories. Well, promoting this gay agenda is a conspiracy theory. It's not fair.
Why do people
don't have to be forced down their throat to decide whether or not they're gay or lesbian when they're 10?
I absolutely, I agree with everything you're saying. I got to hustle you along because I'm almost out of time, but I will say this, Randy, that normalcy has got to have a right for its voice to be heard. And now, with these other players being threatened when they speak out against it, that's ridiculous. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. They're backing up. Caller, call me back. I appreciate it. I'll be right there. I want to remind everybody about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. Your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Gina, you've been in the news journalism business for a long time. I find this story to be so repulsive that they would put this man at the head of the line for, we got to honor him. He's our poster boy. And anybody that believes in Christian values and family values and marriage between a man and a woman only, they speak out, and then the owners of the team say, wait a minute, you got to attend a seminar for acceptance. You can't speak your views. What happened to America?
I don't have to attend any class to speak my views. It is part of our First Amendment rights. I have the right to be offended, and I have the right to offend. That's what it is. I mean, we can say what we feel because that's
the way it's going to be on this program. Yeah. But here's the case, and just answer this a little bit. One person gets drafted in the NFL that comes out and says he's openly a gay homosexual, and they turn him into a poster boy, and his sex life means more than whether he can play football or not. That's asinine.
That's tacky, and that's not why I watch football.
There's so many things that I want to say about this, and I just am almost out of time, but I appreciate your calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244. I'll go ahead and pay some bills real quick. I want to remind everybody about our big corporate sponsor that we're very proud of, and that's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And the best tire value promise in the industry, free peace of mind tire protection. Whatever the road throws at you, you better believe it, they'll replace the value of your tire. And free lifetime tire and mileage care, too. Free flat repairs, free tire rotations, free tire rebalancing, free air checks. Holy cow, free brake and alignment checks. You better stop in and see the best. They really take care of you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I just don't know what this world's coming to. Tim Tebow, whether you liked him or not, whether he was a quarterback or not that belonged in the NFL, irrelevant. But to come out, and he was a Christian, he was raised in a Christian household, and they ran him through the grinder. They did everything they could in the media to make fun of him and belittle him. And he didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, his charity work to children at children's hospitals was absolutely to be admired. And they ran over him in the media. And then we've got a gay football player by the name of Michael Sam, and they think he can walk on water. That is disgusting. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, if you think that's disgusting, how would you like to be one of the players that has to shower with this man? If they put you on a professional women's volleyball team, Zeb, and you get to shower with them girls, you're going to look at every single one of them.
You know, don't even go there. And I'm not trying to be rude to you, but don't even go there, because the thought of this guy and the thought of what he promotes, the thought of what he pretends to be, everything just makes me sick. To think that he's a poster boy for that lifestyle, which is abnormal and perverted, and I'm not going to change my feelings. I'm not going to go into some diversity seminar. I'm going to remain the way I am. I think it's Christian wrong, and I'm not going to do it.
And I do too. And like I said, I feel sorry for the men that have to go in there, that have wives at home, that have girlfriends at home, and have to shower with that man maybe looking at him.
I agree.
That would make you feel so disgusting.
And the media has just built him up to where this guy can do nothing wrong. I would hate to be the coach that has to cut him because of his lack of talent. There's been many coaches say that this Michael Sam is not that good. He's an outside linebacker, an outside line defensive man. He's not that good a player, and he may get cut. Well, there's going to be an uproar.
Right.
I appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. God bless you. He brought up a really good point. This is so sick. Our society is turned upside down. Here we've got an osprey that nested on top of a warning pole that might save human lives. Now, we can't move the bird. Human beings' lives aren't as important as that bird. Baloney! And then we have a football player that comes out of the closet and says, I'm gay, and the media goes, oh, he's wonderful. No, he's not. No, he's not. What about all the guys? They get up every day and they go lift weights and they do their best to represent their sport and represent their team that are Christian folks, and they get nothing but a slap in the face. Our society is turned upside down. Caller, I've got exactly 1 minute. Real fast. Go.
You're the last person to talk to somebody about trying to get rid of birds.
Hey, Kilt Man, real fast, buddy. What's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. I'm just trying to get my stuff done and survive the day. How's that?
Well, the birds are still here. I'm still fighting the birds, only I'm going to go and finally end up with a net result of going from a 20 gauge to a howitzer. We're going to win, Kilt Man, I promise you.
I'm sure going to do some damage to that nice truck of yours.
I'm hoping I miss it, but, something has got to give here. God bless you, man. I got to run. Thanks so much. I'll be in touch with you later today. Thank you. Oh, really good guy right there. Him and his wife, super nice people. We're going to take a little break. Be right back after the news from ABC. Don't go away. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor. You better believe it, you're wonderful. All 7 of them, Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you very much. Along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and Western Way Services, always at your disposal.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and these free lands. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
Oh my, we're getting closer to where a lot of people are planning summer outings, picnics, reunions, everything else. Be sure and check with Western Way Services about all the porta potties. And if you're cleaning things up around the house for that reunion, hey baby, don't forget those dumpsters. They've got all kinds of dumpsters in various sizes. You better believe it, along with the Go Minis portable storage units. Oh, those are good. Western Way Services, you better check it out. Call them 734-6969. They are always at your disposal, Western Way Services. By the way, too, our dear friend, hello, Joel Heward, how are you? He was on the radio with us last week. Really a nice person. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-5636. Joel Heward, the manager, along with his family, they take care of you and your family. When there's the passing of a loved one, believe me, it's a very, very uncertain time, and you don't know what to do, how to get it all done. They can help, and they will help. And they'll even travel to rural towns and churches to meet with you and help you with all the things that need to be taken care of. They'll be there. When always you need them help, they'll be there to serve you. 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Really nice people. Well, in just a moment, we're going to have my dear friend, and that's, of course, Frosty Woldridge on the program. And I want to remind you again that coming up on May 20th, primary day here in the state of Idaho, Ken Menzel wants your vote for Minidoka County Sheriff. And don't forget to go to the polls on May 20th. Ken, of course, running for Minidoka County Sheriff, says he wants to promote a culture within the Sheriff's Office of hard work, integrity, and service that creates a safer environment for the residents and guests to live in Minidoka County. And they're going to have a candidate get-together with Ken Menzel this Thursday, May 15th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Paul City Office and Fire Station in Paul. Don't forget that. This message paid for by Elaine Stevenson, Treasurer for Ken Menzel for Minidoka County Sheriff. Good morning, Frosty Woldridge. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb Bell. Always a pleasure, and happy springtime to everyone in Idaho and across the Northwest. Right here in Golden, Colorado at 8,000 feet, I got about 8 inches of snow. Still coming.
You know, it's funny. I was, another good friend of mine, Doug Johnson, lives back in the Colorado Springs area, and he mentioned they got quite a bit of snow, and you got the snow. I'm telling you that spring has not yet sprung in a lot of locations, so keep that snow shovel handy. Frosty, one of the things I wanted to mention to you this morning is I think it's ridiculous what's going on with the racism in this country, which is stronger than I think it's been since way back in the 60s with Selma, Alabama, and George Wallace. But now the racism in this country is black on black. Did you hear the absolutely pathetic remarks of North Carolina, I think it was South Carolina, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina called Tim Scott, a senator from that state, who is also black. He said that he doesn't vote black and he should change his ways. Since when do we have to vote for a color, Frosty?
Well, this May, my latest column, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to beforeitsnews.com, also Freedom's Phoenix, Liberty News Online, and also News with Views Online. And when you get to you'll see my picture at the top there. And it says, Multicultural America, Land of Strangers. And I really think that we're headed for even greater separation and racial unrest as we continually add another 100,000 immigrants from 150 different countries from around the world every 30 days. And, of course, if Senate Bill 744 passes, ladies and gentlemen, we will double that to well over 200,000. And these people that come into this country are bringing all of these disparate cultures from failed civilizations. Why do you think they're fleeing those countries? If they were happy with those countries, they'd stay there and make the countries better. But instead, they're fleeing those countries. And as David Cameron of the UK spoke, he said multiculturalism has been a failure. In the UK, Angela Merkel of Germany has said that it is a complete failure, the multiculturalism in Germany. Same thing in Belgium, same thing in Holland, same thing in Norway and Sweden, even Austria. I've had writers from Austria come right back to me and say, "My God, we've got a multicultural chaos in Austria." It's happening to Italy and certainly Spain. But my latest piece, Multicultural America, Land of Strangers, with all the racial unrest we have going back and forth, you've got the former Sacramento Clippers, or whatever, the basketball 80-year-old owner just got banned for life for racial comments. And I mean the indignity and the anger and all the other things that went with that. It's just a terrible mixture and racial unrest that doesn't go away. And so yesterday, in fact, I went over to a Denver Costco store. And ladies and gentlemen, you may not have as much of this in Idaho right now or the Northwest, but it's coming. But when I walked into the Costco, I mean, there were immigrants talking in their native languages from Pakistan, from India, from Mexico, from China, from Vietnam, from Somalia, and China. And that's just, there was another half dozen. And these people are totally, completely, they just like, I felt like a fish out of water. And these people are streaming into this country at the rate of 100,000 per every 30 days. And they were speaking in their own native language, and I felt zero commonality with them. And in fact, I felt like a stranger in my own community. And so when you talk about that, people talking about racism and all the stuff, Zeb, we've got so much more of it coming in because last week I wrote a commentary in the Vale Daily. It's called Valley Voices because one of the guys, a Dr. Jason Glassman, who is the Eagle County superintendent of schools, he said that we've got to start now speaking Spanish as an co-equal language, and we have to become a bilingual country because we have so many Mexicans in our country right now. And I wrote a counter to that. I said, well, we've got 50 different languages in Colorado right now, and a 50-60% dropout flunk-out rate from our high schools because of so much linguistic chaos. And he said, well, we've got to really get with the new world. And I said, yeah, but we're losing the cohesiveness of our nation. And I responded with that point 1 of the 8 points on how to destroy America, which Governor Lamb is so famous for. And I wrote the piece on that 10 years ago. And he says, well, we got to stop racism. And I said, well, multiculturalism feeds racism, and more immigration feeds more racism, and it doesn't go away. And yet we still think that this is going to all work out, and that we can all be singing Kumbaya in 50 different languages. So it's my latest piece is very apropos on the racism, and the fact of it is, it's not going to stop, Zeb. It's going to get worse because of this multilingual and multicultural situation that is bearing down on our country.
No, I totally agree. And I'll tell you what I've got to do, Frosty. I want to talk more about this with you, but I've got to do a commercial break. We're in the middle of political season. I've got a whole bunch of things I have to take care of. I'll be right back with more Frosty Woldridge. Don't forget Senator Lee Hyder for District 24. The best always stand the test. And Idaho Senator Lee Hyder is one of the best, and he has shown his diligence and perseverance to be the man of the hour for the right to hunt, fish, and trap amendment and serve Idahoans for future generations. And he wants you to go to the polls and exercise the privilege and, of course, your patriotic duty of voting on May 20th. Do not forget the primaries are on May 20th, and Senator Lee Hyder wants you to go to the polls and vote. Paid for by Lee Hyder for Senate District 24. Also, real quick, I want you to remind yourself about Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Absolutely, they'll take care of you with the best of gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps. You and your family will enjoy the comfort through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. We're on the air with my dear friend, and that's, of course, Frosty Woldridge back in Golden, Colorado. You said a couple of words here that are really key, and then we'll take a caller, Frosty. We've got a caller on the line. Get with the new world, this person told you. You know, I don't want to get with the new world. I want to have the United States of America. The United States of America. Stay united. Stay as a 50-state union of where the melting pot comes here and it's melded down to where we're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and I don't want to learn how to speak Ethiopian.
Well, that would be, in fact, I just received a letter from a man from Chicago who just said, your article nailed the subject exactly. My wife Nancy and I face exactly the same situation in the stores here in Chicago. And more that come, and the more that come, the more violence occurs. We've got Honduran gang MS-13 is prevalent in the area. They target the middle-class children in grammar schools and hook them on heroin. That guarantees the gang a steady income stream. My vice president's son of my company was in 5th grade when he started on marijuana laced with heroin. He then went on and was mainlining heroin by the time he was a sophomore. He died 2 months before he was supposed to graduate high school at 17. And the story just, the pushers are everywhere, getting, and these are people from MS-13, which is in Salvador and Honduras and so forth. Anybody thinks that we're going to maintain some kind of a cohesive society with this kind of injection of all these third world countries where drugs are a part of life in those countries. If you go to Afghanistan, you go to Iraq, everybody is hooked on heroin. It is a nightmare. And yet we are importing them by 100,000 immigrants every month right now from all these third world countries. I don't know why anyone thinks this is going to end up well.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Why is it, what's the agenda of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? They're pumping almost $1 million into Mike Simpson's campaign here. And who's financing him? Also, what's ever happened to the English-only movement? I haven't heard much about that lately. Those are the two questions I have for Frosty.
All right, go ahead, Frosty, and answer that if you would, please.
Let me tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is so pro-illegal immigration. They do anything and everything they can. They work for the Marriott hotels. They work for Hormel. They work for Tyson Chicken. They work for McDonald's. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is pro-illegal immigration, pro-mass immigration, and they are really a huge factor in stonewalling E-Verify to make sure that we have people who are here in this country legally can get a job legally. But in fact, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce does everything it can to thwart and undermine America's immigration laws. So get that fact real quick. The second question he had was, I've already forgotten. What was it?
I think it was in regards to, and you know what, I'm going to have to voice a little bit of uncertainty because I can't remember everything that was asked. That's all right, though.
English is a speaking language.
Yes, English is a speaking language.
Thank
you, Gina.
Because when I get questions, I usually write them down because I can't get them as fast and remember them as quickly. Yes, U.S. English. There's two different, EnglishOnly.com, I think, and USEnglish.org. I'm not sure, but there are two organizations that are trying to get English as the national language and voted in the national language. And for those of you who remember this, it's called the Executive Order, EO, Executive Order 16133. It was passed by Bill Clinton, the president way back when, to give every immigrant his or her language and all the documents in their language. In other words, we're paying billions of dollars to kowtow to all of these different languages that are of these immigrants that are coming into our country. And so it's costing a fortune, and it's EO 13166 is the executive order. It should be rescinded, but U.S. English, and English Only, I think, .com or .org are the two organizations you want to join. If we continue on this multilingual situation, we will be such a fractured country. We already are. You go to New York City right now, or you go to Los Angeles, or you go to Miami. You might get 1 in 5 that speak English. That's how bad it is, because these immigrants are landing in these big cities like this, and of course they all go on welfare. Unfortunately, that's a huge percentage of them, because they're just poor, they're unskilled, and they can't speak English. And where they speak whatever their language is for their little barrio, then there's no chance for an American to get a job in the middle of Miami anymore, because if you don't speak Spanish, you don't have a chance. Same thing with Houston, same thing with Los Angeles. And so that's exactly what's happening, and those are the two English-speaking organizations that are trying to get English passed as the national language.
Let me ask you this. I don't know your circle of friends back there in Colorado, and you and I have we've known each other and been friends now for about 7 or 8 years. But what about you? Are you a sole entity? Are you an island out there with sharks swimming around that want to get you, that absolutely hate your viewpoint? Or are you making inroads in Colorado with others senators that are absolutely sick and tired of seeing America go down the tubes, and I applaud you. You've said in many writings that we should limit our people coming into this country to 100,000 a year, and we should know who they are, what they can do, what they want, everything else. And I agree with you. We have got to limit the amount of immigrants coming into this country because the infrastructure and our jobs, our welfare system, we absolutely can't take on anybody else.
Well, and we can't, and we are not succeeding in this, ladies and gentlemen. And again, the great tragedy facing all of America, and even the immigrants themselves, is that the jobs and wages will go down as the numbers go up. That is a guaranteed fact. It's called supply and demand. It's the capitalistic system. And that's why jobs over in China are 88 cents an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, 88 cents an hour. That's why they've got 1.3 billion people. I think about 1.4 billion right now. And so there's no chance to have a middle class. You just have everyone being as poor as everybody else. And so that's the tragedy. And so, yeah, the more we and again, if this 744 bill passes, not only will we add 100 million immigrants within the next 36 years, but we'll double the speed of them coming in here. And so that all of us, our children, and all of the illegal aliens that are coming in, plus the legal immigrants that are coming in and their children, are going to be working for McDonald's for 50 cents an hour by the time we get done. And McDonald's, of course, is real happy about that. So is Tyson Chicken. So is all of the construction firms, the painting firms, and right on down the line, because the ones at the top, the owners, are the ones that are making all the money, and the rest of us don't have a prayer. And as you all know right now, and Zeb, this is absolutely an economic reality, the middle class is vanishing into becoming the new poor class of America, and that's going to continue, and it's going to continue even faster if the Senate or the House of Representatives passes the 744 bill that was passed by the Senate. The 100 senators of this country that passed that bill have got to be economic idiots to have voted for that thing. It just makes me sick beyond belief. But then when you start looking at the cultural incompatibilities and then the language chaos, it's setting our country up for internal disturbances. You think we have racial problems today? You just wait till we have another 100 million immigrants from 150 different countries, and they all want what they want. And it's not wanting what America is all about, is wanting what they want, and that's what we're facing.
Absolutely. We've got time for one quick call and a short answer. Go ahead, caller, please.
Hey, I was wondering about the minimum wage. I feel like it'll be taking, I myself and many others will take a big pay cut if they raise the minimum wage. What are your thoughts on that?
Frosty, go ahead and respond to that. And you and I might be a little different in our attitude on the minimum wage, but I want to hear what you have to say quickly. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Let me tell you this. The minimum wage will always be undercut by illegal aliens because the employers that are, and this is, let's face it, there's millions of employers out there that want to make the most profit possible, and they don't care about the minimum wage because they've got all these illegal aliens, and again, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is pushing this. The illegal aliens will work for cash and they'll work off the books. Understand this, that in California right now and across the United States of America, illegal aliens form the second largest underground economy in the world, and you and I are paying all of the taxes that are paying for all the school systems, for all the breakfasts and lunches, for all the medical care, for all the anchor babies, because of all these illegal aliens. They are working under the table. They are getting cash. They're pumping $80 billion a year back to their own countries. The $24 billion of that goes to Mexico alone. So in the end, we all pay. Minimum wage doesn't make any difference to those employers because they know they've got this endless line of illegal aliens that will work for cash, and so it makes it a moot point, to tell you the truth.
Well, my stand on that, though, quickly, Frosty, and give me a short answer in return. I am absolutely adamant that the minimum wage should never go to $15 or $20 like some of these people are trying to propose, because there's no way in the world employers can afford that for a low-level entry to the workforce job, and there's no way they can afford to pay the increased wages and forced wage raises to other people that work for them. We're looking at a society that's doomed to inflation and absolute runaway inflation with this kind of concept.
Well, not only that, we're $18 trillion in debt, and we're paying like $600 or $700 million a day just to service the $18 trillion debt. So we're in so much trouble on so many levels. We're borrowing money from China. We owe them about $1.4 trillion right now, so they own us. And to think that we can keep floating this false economy, we got another thing coming. And I'm not a super economist, but I know enough to be dangerous. And so, I understand that whole aspect. But the fact is, people keep thinking that the minimum wage people they're using it as a stepping stone. Well, guess what, folks? There's so many minimum wage people out there that don't have enough education to use McDonald's as a stepping stone, but they're having 2 and 3 and 4 kids. So even though they're working for $8 or $9 an hour, they're going home and they're living on food stamps, and they're certainly living on assisted housing, Section 8 housing, and so they're costing all of us anyway. And again, why are we pumping 100,000 immigrants into this country every 30 days, Zeb? Because, again, that's going to keep the low-income people and the minimum wage people right there on literally welfare, and of course, we all pay for it. So it's going to get even uglier with the Senate 744 jumping legal immigration to 2 million per year, or in excess of 200,000 every 30 days.
Absolutely. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. Always look forward to having you on the program every Monday. Thank you so much. God's blessings to you, and we'll talk to you next Monday at 9:06.
All right, sir. I look forward to it, Zeb.
All right, Frosty. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Frosty Woldridge right here on Zeb at the Ranch. By the way, Senator Dean Cameron, running unopposed for Senator in District 27, wants you to go vote on May 20th. Dean, of course, has been a voice of influence, a voice of caring, and a voice for getting things done for the state of Idaho. And, he is the highest-ranking member of the Senate. And this man has been a senator for 24 years. Working for you and working for me. And again, he urges you to go vote on May 20th and exercise your patriotic duty. May 20th is the big day. Senator Dean Cameron, Senator for District 27, paid for by Idaho Senator Dean Cameron. Thank you very much. Oh, boy, let's see. Before we go to our next guest, I want to remind you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Oh, my goodness. Minnecasia choice, you betcha. You better stop in and see all the nice people at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Check out all the great furniture buys. Check out all the great carpet buys. Check out all the window coverings. Everything for you. The Beauty Rest mattresses. Oh, my goodness. The huge selection of recliners. What are you waiting for? And they've got the Flex Steel furniture. Oh, my goodness, you've got to go in and check out the Flex Steel difference right there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They've got Flex Steel occasional tables. They've got it all for you right there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Really good folks. Ladies and gentlemen, also, and I'm going to try to keep as organized as I can in doing all these, but I want to remind you also that Chris Jensen, 24 years of law enforcement, wants your vote on May 20th to become Minidoka County Sheriff. Ethical and honest, experienced and dedicated, with a public commitment and financially accountable. Those are just some of the attributes, and he says he wants to bring new leadership, a new vision, and a new direction to the Minidoka County Sheriff's Office by seeking the elected office of sheriff. Once again, vote for Chris Jensen on May 20th for Minidoka County Sheriff, paid for by the citizens for Chris Jensen, Barbara Jensen, Treasurer. And we're going to be going to the phone lines momentarily and have with us on the air guest Kelly Fedoric from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Stand by. We'll get her on the air momentarily. Don't forget, too, Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my goodness, they're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, and they've got all the ATVs. I mean, you just open that front door, look from left to right, right to left, look at all the different colors, look at all the different styles. Holy smokes, they got them all. Your fun. That's right. That's where you can have fun outside anytime, all the time, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. They've got dirt bikes with 0% financing for 5 years and the best of service departments and all the accessories at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Ladies and gentlemen, going to the phone line right now, and with us this morning, we have Kelly Fedorik from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Kelly, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
Well, it's nice to have you on the program this morning, but one of the things that has just really irritated me in this country, and it's getting worse every day, is that the sanctity and the wholesomeness of marriage between a man and a woman is being destroyed by frivolous and abnormal entities in our society, and we don't seem to be fighting back effectively. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think you're right in that the union of one man and one woman in marriage is timeless. It's universal. It's special. It's so important to the structure of our society and for the good of family stability and for our children. However, I do think that there are, both on a grassroots level, legal level, a number of levels, there is an effort to defend marriage laws, to restore marriage culture. And just for an example, Alliance Defending Freedom, we're getting ready to defend the marriage laws of Virginia tomorrow morning before the Fourth Circuit, talking about why it's the people's right to define marriage as they see fit, and that marriage between a man and woman is important, it is rational, it is good for children and for society.
Kelly, I don't want to ever concede defeat. I'm one of these kind of guys, like standing up for the Alamo. But it seems like there's a lot of money and there's a lot of pervertedness in our society that wants to change marriage and change the structure of the American family. Would you tell my listeners, we've got to get up and fight. We've got to do something. What would you tell them how they can get involved?
Well, I guess first of all, I just encourage everyone in their own personal lives to build and create a strong marriage culture. So in your own marriages, make sure those are strong. Make sure those are examples of strong family stability that you're passing on to your children and into your children's children. And then just try to get involved, whether it's in your community or in your church, wherever it might be, writing an op-ed to a local paper. Try to find ways to talk about why marriage is important, why it's good for children to have a mom and a dad, why it's difficult when children don't grow up with a mom and dad. Just sort of talking about why we have marriage and why the government should seek to protect that relationship as something that's fundamental to the very fabric and the very well-functioning of our society.
Kelly, one of my biggest fears is when I pick up the newspaper or watch the television or listen to the radio and you hear about same-sex couples demanding this and demanding that. And if they get their way, what's next? I mean, the perversion and the absolute destruction of marriage, what are we going to have? We're going to have 13 people marrying each other? Are we going to have somebody marrying their Cocker Spaniel? I mean, the sky's the limit as to how perverted they can get.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because advocates of polygamy and plural marriage already point to laws and court rulings that impose same-sex marriage as the basis of their argument. So I think that the issue is maybe even broader than you're stating. I think redefining marriage will impact every area. It'll suddenly define moms and dads as optional. It places adults' desires over the needs of children. And then even looking more broadly, it has significant free speech and free exercise of religion implications, where we've already seen coercion and punishment of people who are trying to live their lives or run their businesses according to a definition of gendered marriage. They're being punished by the government for not reconciling their views with what the government thinks their views should be on marriage.
You brought up a really good point right there, Kelly, that I'd like to pursue just a little bit more. Whether it's a photography business, whether it's a bakery, it doesn't make any difference what kind of a business it is. Have we lost the right of declination in this country to where you respectfully say, no, I can't go along with that. Why don't you try down the street at so-and-so's bakery or go to so-and-so's photographic shop because this is against my principles and I will not be a part of it. I guess the the government's going to make demands on us to where we're going to be led by the nose.
Well, I think that we're losing what has always made our country so special, which is the diversity of ideas and being able to live freely according to our sincerely held beliefs. And you're right, we're seeing this conflict arise where the government's saying, if you don't decide to run your business according to our ideology, we're going to come in and punish you and make you go out of business. And that's not how it should work. In America, we should be free to live our lives, to run our businesses according to principles that we hold dear. And there should be enough room in our country for everyone's viewpoint.
What would you tell my audience, and myself included, that we can do on a first level, if you will, to stand up for the Bible, stand up for a marriage between a man and a woman, stand up for a conscious approach to keeping a moral value and compass system in this country? What can we do?
Well, I think, first of all, we should not live in a spirit of fear. We should live in a spirit of courage, and I think there's a lot of discouragement right now. And I'm not denying the reality that things have gotten pretty tough lately, and they might get harder on our journey to restoring a marriage culture in our society, to strengthening our First Amendment freedoms. But I think that we will ultimately win. We will restore these fundamental aspects of our society. So don't lose heart, I would say, is the first one in terms of our mindset. Be encouraged and live out the why marriage is important. And then also just get involved in whatever area. I think our churches need to have the courage to speak more publicly about this, about why marriage is important, and also convey that, we respect the dignity of everyone. But that doesn't mean that we should fundamentally redefine the institution of marriage.
I think you really touched on a point there that I've got just a couple of minutes left here, and I want you to elaborate on. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll take the heat for it. I think that from the pulpit, our churches are not doing enough or being strong enough as to really amplifying the moral values of the Bible and also our lives here in America. I think they've kind of dropped the ball in some respect. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I think that churches need to speak more on this issue, and I think there's often a fear, like I was saying, they're in a spirit of fear of not speaking clearly about why marriage is important and why it's good to embrace this idea that a child should never be intentionally denied a mom and a dad. And I think we're facing obviously this effort to redefine marriage, but the effort to destroy marriage started a long time ago. It started really with the onslaught of no-fault divorce, and we've seen that kind of expand with a lot of single moms, a lot of out-of-wedlock pregnancies. So there's been a number of attacks on sort of the family, and so we need to do everything we can to sort of to rebuild the family, rebuild the importance of marriage as that linchpin to a well-functioning and strong and stable environment for children and families. Absolutely.
Kelly, if they want to follow these stories and many more with the Alliance Defending Freedom, please tell us how they can find you folks on the website and follow along.
Well, our web address is www.alliancedefendingfreedom.org, and all of our issues are on that website, and the battles we're fighting right now in the courts with marriage can be found there, as well as with religious freedom. So definitely check out that website.
I want to say thank you very much for coming on the program. Kelly Fedoruk with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you very much. God's blessings to you, and come back again in the future if you would, please.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you much. Folks, we got to speak out. We have got to speak up and speak out, and if you've got a value system, stand up for it. I'm sure you do. Your church, your minister, they can't do it all. It takes us to speak out and try to put things back in proper perspective. Boy, have we got away from the rules of the game in this country. It's a shame. Don't forget, when you think about life insurance, think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Yes, and when you think about health insurance, same thing. You better think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. Now, don't you dare say you haven't thought about those things, but you just kind of put it on the back burner and didn't take care of it, did you? Well, don't do that. You've got to take care of things and make sure that everything is up to par, okay? Call them today. Dean, Cameron, Todd, Siemens, 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Serving you. Okay, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, at this time, if we could, let's have that word for Congressman Mike Simpson.
Personal injury lawyer Brian Smith is trained to say anything to win. Yet Idaho newspapers called Brian Smith's negative attacks against conservative Republican Mike Simpson false. Patently false. Smith is using negative false attacks to hide the truth about his debt collection business that's collected millions, targeting veterans, the disabled, seniors struggling to pay medical bills. Smith's debt collection business has charged interest rates as high as 99%. 99%! One bankruptcy attorney reports Smith's debt collection business triggered as many as half of all bankruptcies filed in Bonneville County. An Idaho judge said Smith's fees were excessive. The debt collection business unconscionable. A peer called Smith inflexible, a brute, a bully. The Better Business Bureau gave Smith's debt collection business an F. False attacks, targeting the vulnerable, predatory interest rates. Personal injury lawyer and debt collector Brian Smith is out for himself, not you.
I'm Mike Simpson, and I approve this message, paid for by Simpson for Congress.
Thank you very much, and calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Now, I have not got verification on this story right to its nth degree, but I did hear yesterday and again this morning, once on another network and then once this morning on Fox News, that the solar panels, and again I'm going to be verifying this, the solar panels that are on top of the White House back in Washington, D.C., they have many, many solar panels on top of the White House, and combined, this is what the story is now this morning, combined, they only generate enough power to run approximately 6 light bulbs in the White House. Now, I'm not making this stuff up. You couldn't. 6 light bulbs, that's how much power was generated by those very costly, very expensive to the taxpayers, solar panels that were put on the White House. And they're preaching climate change. They're preaching the sky is falling. They're preaching that we should all go with green energy, that we should all go to the solar panels, that we should all adhere to the wind philosophy of generating green energy. They want billions more for this nonsense. And green and solar right now are costing you and me over $12 billion per year. There is no residual coming back to us that's going to offset that cost. It's a cost factor of over $12 billion per year. But if it's true, in the figures that were given to me, that the solar panels on the top of the White House only generate a combined energy factor to light up only 6 light bulbs at the White House. What a frivolous waste of time. Your thoughts, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your phone call that I know is coming in, we're going to do a quick weather forecast with MichaelRogersWeather.com, and it's brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan and the rest of the crew, always with the best of guns, ammo, and accessories, and people that really know all about guns right there at Red's Trading Post. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Start of a brand spanking new week of You, Me, and Weather. Always remember the number one weather fact that is always true, no matter what. And you don't need to have a degree in meteorology to find this out. There's always some form of clearing after a storm, and that's what you're going to get for the next 72 hours. Partly cloudy all the way through Wednesday. 62 for the high today, 68 for the high tomorrow, 70 for the high the day after tomorrow. And oh, by the way, if you're keeping score at home for Thursday, look for a daytime high of 82. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go. Thank you very much, Michael Rogers Weather. And brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan and the rest of the crew at 733-3546. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I just turned in just now, and I heard you talking about that dimwatt that was in Washington, D.C.
Well, somewhat.
He has just enough power coming off of those to fire his dimwits.
I wish that were the case. But, really, I am so adamantly against green energy. I am so adamantly against the cost factor. It is never going to work for at least 50 years by experts that have really studied this thing as a light switch turn-on energy that's going to be available to the American public. There's going to have to be a complete comprehensive changeover. It's not there. We don't have it. Our electrical grid is at risk right now because of the cutting back on coal energy, and we just don't have it. We are being duped into living in a cave and burning buffalo dung, sir, with this administration.
You're correct on that, and I look at it a little further down the road because this thing with the Bundy situation and the China thing coming in here and building these solar powers, and then they're going to have to shut down our total grid, all of our generating facilities, so that we can buy that very, very expensive Chinese power generated right here in our desert.
Well, in just about a matter of 20 minutes, I'm going to have a lady on from New Mexico. Her name is Marita Noon, and she is an author, and she's spoken all over the United States in regards to energy. She is an energy expert, and we're going to be talking about this absolute excessive stupidity by the government to buy jet fuel for $150 a gallon. And a jet will use over $30,000 worth of this fuel in just a little training flight. And the idiocy of spending $150 a gallon when jet fuel can be bought for $2.85 a gallon. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
That's a good question. But then again, we have to ask Nancy Pelosi, does she still expect us to fuel her airplane flying from Washington, D.C. to California?
But sir, really answer this. You're a very intelligent man. You've called many times in the past. Why are we not speaking out? Why are we not clamoring? Why are we not grabbing our politicians by the short end of the necktie and tightening it up? Why are we not absolutely staging revolts and riots against this idiocy and incompetency led by our government to take us into a regressive state? Not a progressive, but a regressive state.
I think you have a point there, Zeb, and the answer to that, in my opinion, is I don't want to raise a flag and catch flack. I'm going to let the other guy do it, and then I'll get behind him. There's just not enough front-runner people out there that studied the issues enough and committed themselves enough to come up with a certain kind of a plan that can put them in the forefront, in the light. Too many of us don't want to get in that light and catch the flack from it.
Well, on this program, I'm not going to weaken. I'm going to keep my voice out there. I know they listen from the NSA. I know that they've got these dimwits that are trying to follow us and trip us up anytime they get a chance. But when the American public wises up and realizes that they can't go see Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred at Thanksgiving, they can't go anywhere, they can't go shopping, they can't take the kids to soccer practice, they're just held within their own little nucleus. They can't even afford to hold a job because of energy costs going through the roof, and they're held subservient to doing nothing except just existing. Maybe then, if it's not too late, they'll rise up against a nation of fools which are leading this country.
It may well be too late by then.
I agree.
There's a certain situation right now, and it's called Zeb Bell. We need more radio stations pushing this thing like Zeb Bell does. I'm willing to call in and give my 2 cents, but I don't have the dollars or the time to go out and get my own radio station.
Yeah.
So we need some kind of a sounding board to let those people back there know Zeb Bell's got quite a following behind him, and we agree with him.
Well, I appreciate that very much, but sometimes, and I want you to appreciate where I'm coming from, sometimes I feel like John the Baptist, a voice crying in the wilderness, because people won't amplify what I'm trying to say and do. They'll say, yeah, we agree with you, but it doesn't go any further than that. It doesn't go to their Chamber of Commerce. It doesn't go to their churches. It doesn't go to their schools. They don't make demands upon educators. Hey, wait a minute, we don't agree with this type of thing. We've got to do something. I honestly believe in the slogan I chose for this program about 15 years ago. The way things were are the way things ought to be, and that goes along with all the pervertedness that's going on in our society. It goes along with the politics. It goes along with the education. We've got a great big cleanup campaign to get back to the greatness America was.
I hear it, Zeb, and you're right on. Now, on the 20th, coming up in just a few days, we have a chance. And it's going to be my vote that moves Simpson out of office, because that scoundrel has sunk us too many times.
Well, regardless of who the...
On Butch Otter. This guy is also planning to sell out to the Chinese with 10 square miles between Mountain Home and Boise. Now, that's not kosher in my book. The State Attorney General of Idaho seems to be not going along with this get our lands back situation, where all the Western governors and their state attorney generals are suing the federal government for those lands. We can get them. We can get those lands. That's in the Constitution right now. Those lands belong to us. All we have to do is ask for them, then pay the bill.
Regardless, and I have to be very careful and walk a very, very thin line here during political season, because I'm not going to give any leaning towards one candidate or the other. That's not fair when they pay and buy the time on the radio. You can understand that. So it's up to the American public, you and others, to make the decision on May 20th as to who you want representing you. But therein lies another problem, sir. I get absolutely sickened when I heard what happened back in the Carolinas a week ago at their primaries, and they had 16% turned out to vote. What are we going to do to get the audience up off their fat fannies and go vote?
It's just a little bit beyond me. I voted since I was of age. I voted every year. And since I was of age, I've seen it go downhill, a little more and a little more. And I really can't answer the question, Zeb, until I say, when it pinches hard enough, people are going to do it. They're going to change the shoe if it pinches hard enough. So right now, we've had a great society that's brought us this far down. But I look at the high school graduates, and I see there's, for what lack of a better word, their stupidity. This situation has dumbed down our education system until we have a bunch of sheep. They'll blat, but they'll go along with the herd.
I agree with you, and I really appreciate your call, but I get really, really upset. And you've had it happen to you, I'm sure. The day after the elections, you'll go to a coffee shop, you'll go to a cafe, and you'll hear somebody say something that's very dim-witted, like, well, I didn't go vote because they're all the same, and my vote doesn't matter, and all that baloney. And this is why we have the problem in America today, because people are so apathetic and, quite frankly, dadgum lazy.
You're correct. I can see the situation in my mind. I hope it doesn't come there, but I can see it. We are going to lose our freedoms. And when people wake up and say, I've lost it all, now I'm going to get myself in gear and start earning back my freedoms. That's the point. When we lose our freedoms, that's when we miss them enough to get in action.
I agree.
But I think that people need to stand up, read the issues, get informed on all of the issues. What's the issue right now? We have a governor being elected. Let's find out the issues. We have a state attorney general. Is he really supporting or not supporting this movement of the Western governors? We got to find out these issues for sure. If Smith is the man to oppose Congressman
Simpson. Simpson.
I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Smith is the man to do that. We've got to study Smith. We've got to study the issues. Can he handle the issues?
I agree with you, and I hate to cut you off, but I'm out of time, and I got to do a commercial break, but you're always welcome to call, sir. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Keep going, Zeb.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You know, regardless of who your candidate is, please, I urge you to get out and vote. And so does State Representative for District 27, Fred Wood. How'd you like that? That was quite a segue, wasn't it? Fred, the chairman of the Health and Welfare Committee and on the Resources and Environment Committee, and believe me, he has been working for all the people in District 27, and for that matter, the state of Idaho. And he wants to urge everybody to get out and vote on May 20th. Show that you care and are willing to take charge of your future. Representative Fred Wood from District 27 urges you to go vote in the primaries on May 20th, paid for by Fred Wood, House Seat 27. Yes, Gina?
I just wanted to make one point. You were bringing up about the solar panels being put up at the White House.
Yeah.
The solar panels will produce 6.3 kilowatt hours. Now, if you break that down, that will power 6 50-watt light bulbs for 20 hours each day.
Oh, wow. What a cost-effective situation. Boy, we ought to be jumping naked in the streets.
Yeah, and you know how many billions of dollars they spent on that. So,
amen.
Food for thought, an average home uses 27 kilowatts every day. And the solar panels that they installed in the White House, they only produce 6.3.
So you're in concurrence with the story that I gave, my dear. I can see that. Hey, I got to run and run. Now, that's an oxymoron. But I'll be back in 6. Have a good day. Welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers. And they are Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And, of course, our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today, 734-6969. We're going to have our guest with us in just a few moments, so stand by. But first and foremost, I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill. Ooh, boy, this is a great place to go eat at 139 West Main in Burley. And the special today is chicken lettuce wraps with choice of potato, veggies, and super salad, just $8.95. You're going to love the food, all of the menu, and the people. And the environment really, really fun at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see these folks today. Really good folks. By the way, I think at this time we'll have this good word for Congressman Mike Simpson.
Personal injury lawyer Brian Smith is trained to say anything to win. Yet Idaho newspapers call Brian Smith's negative attacks against conservative Republican Mike Simpson false, patently false. Smith is using negative false attacks to hide the truth about his debt collection business that's collected millions, targeting veterans, the disabled, seniors struggling to pay medical bills. Smith's debt collection business has charged interest rates as high as 99%. 99%! One bankruptcy attorney reports Smith's debt collection business triggered as many as half of all bankruptcies filed in Bonneville County. An Idaho judge said Smith's fees were excessive, the debt collection business unconscionable. A peer called Smith inflexible, a brute, a bully. The Better Business Bureau gave Smith's debt collection business an F. False attacks, targeting the vulnerable, predatory interest rates. Personal injury lawyer and debt collector Brian Smith is out for himself, not you.
I'm Mike Simpson, and I approve this message, paid for by Simpson to Congress.
Once again, we want to remind you on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days right here on Zeb at the Ranch, and our thanks go to our 2 great sponsors, and they are A Child's World at 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley, and they've got a big spring cleaning sale going on right now. Over 300 summer outfits have been there, and they're only at $10. You better check it out at A Child's World, 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. And, of course, the Ambulatory Surgery Center continues to be the area's best place for outpatient surgery, saving you hundreds of dollars, plus receiving outstanding friendly care. All of this and more. All you have to do is call 677-8888 for more information. The Ambulatory Surgery Center, located at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley, along with the Child's World, sponsors of School Days in Cassia County. Ladies and gentlemen, a lady that I have a lot of respect for is on the line with with us right now from New Mexico, and she knows all about energy, or the lack of, in this country currently. Marita Noon, how are you, my dear? Good to have you on the program.
Why, thank you. It's always a treat to talk to you because you're so enthusiastic about energy like I am, and you get the role that energy plays in making America great.
Marita, I think first and foremost, my audience needs to know more about what you do, and you're a great author, a great spokesperson for what America needs to do to get energy efficient again. Why don't you give us a little background about some of the books that you've written and also what you do to help us here in this country recognize and realize that we're losing energy thanks to politics?
Well, to start with your closing comment there, you said that we're losing energy due to politics. And the reason, that is a true statement, I believe, and the reason that that's happening is that the average person doesn't really even think about energy. Sometimes when I speak places, I spoke a couple months ago for the Albuquerque Tea Party in my home state of New Mexico, and they were kind of like, why are we talking about energy? They didn't understand the role that energy plays and how interconnected energy and politics really are. And so my mission really is to help to educate the average person about the role that energy plays. And because most people don't think about energy beyond flipping the switch on the wall and putting gasoline in their car, it's very easy for the antis to hoodwink people into thinking that we truly can power America on butterflies, rainbows, and fairy dust. And one of the ways that I work to educate people about the role that energy plays is through doing radio interviews such as this one with you, and I greatly appreciate that as it gives me an opportunity to communicate the message to the average person. I also write a weekly column that is on a variety of websites nationwide and in different newspapers around the country. And in fact, if anyone listening has contact with their local newspaper, my column's available free of charge for any newspaper that wants to run it. And I do a 900-word version for the newspapers and a 600-word version of the newspapers. But my column is published first now on redstate.com. A few weeks back, I made the transition from townhall.com to redstate.com. And so if listeners just Googled my name and redstate, one word, .com, you would easily find my column. And I just put this week's column up a couple hours ago, and it is really an expose. I was hoping to get it closer to 1,000 words, but it came out at over 2,000 words. But it's really an expose on the so-called environmental group, the Center for Biological Diversity, which is the group that is leading all of the endangered species listings that are blocking energy development, ranching, and all kinds of other things in America. And that's what this week's column that I just posted a few hours ago is about. Almost my last sentence here in answer to your question. This is a long answer, I know. My website is energymakesamericagreat.org, and I've written 20 books, 19 of them in the Christian personal growth nonfiction genre, and my newest, available on Amazon.com, is Energy Freedom.
Okay. Marita, I guess one of the questions I have, and I get so frustrated on this talk show, is that I think it's high time or past time that Americans have all gone to their legislators, their congressmen, their senators, and said enough is enough, and grabbed them by the short end of the necktie and turned them into human thermometers to the point where they realize they worked for us, not themselves. They worked for the constituents, and right now we are not energy efficient. We're losing our energy. We don't have anything that's going to be for the safety and security of the electrical grids. We're paying way over the price that we should be paying at the pumps, and America right now is being held hostage to the point where, with climate change fiascos and everything else, there might not be any more kids' soccer games.
Yeah, it's very scary what's taking place, and as I said, a lot of that, I think, is because most people don't understand it, so we just stay quiet. We don't understand what's the bigger picture of the messaging that's going out there and how there is really an organized campaign, an organized effort to force Americans to use less energy, to force Americans to pay higher prices for energy, and those higher prices in turn cause us to use less. And as you mentioned, climate change is a big part of all that. The whole climate change ruse is, and then that climate change ruse lays the foundation for all the green energy initiatives that are out there and the spending of taxpayer dollars towards failed projects such as the poster child of Solyndra.
Why are we buying into climate change? Why is the general public being duped and coerced into accepting climate change as man-made? Why in the world is it turned into a cult religion? Why have we let this happen?
Well, again, it's the uninformed nature of it and the fact that the mainstream media buys into it and goes along with it. And, back in around 2006, which is when a lot of this was first being pushed, and that's when a lot of states put in their renewable portfolio standards, which requires that we have a certain percentage of our electricity come from renewable sources, mainly wind and solar. At that time, obviously, as you know, Al Gore was out with his little movie and his hockey stick graph and so forth. And, it made sense because the planet had warmed. And when you take a selected set of temperatures from a certain time frame, you could see, well, yes, the planet has warmed. And so they were able to sell this narrative. They didn't include the bigger temperature history that includes dramatic periods of warming and cooling over the last several thousand years. And then more recently, though, we've seen that their computer models that they projected, this ongoing warming, that they projected the increased storms, that they projected rising sea levels, that they projected melting sea ice, or Arctic ice, excuse me, none of that has come true. I was on a radio station recently. I'm doing a program like this, and the co-host of the show is actually a meteorologist. He worked primarily for the Air Force most of his career, and he's now retired, and he's doing radio. And the other host, the number one host, asked myself and the number two voice, as they call it on that show, are there any global warming predictions that you can think of that have come true? And neither one of us could come up with anything that has come true. And that kind of history now, since 2006 when this first began to be pushed, has made the public far more leery of climate change. And in fact, polls that show, that ask what are the issues the American government should be focusing on, climate change continues to come in dead last. And so it's amazing, but the mainstream media continues to push this narrative. And of course, we've got billionaire Tom Steyer, hedge fund billionaire from California, who has promised $100 million to Democratic candidates who push the climate change narrative and especially work to block the Keystone Pipeline.
Marita, what you said is so true. Bear with me just a second. Here's some of the headlines I cut out from various papers this last week. Airports most at flood risk. White House issues climate change alarm. Mounting climate evidence meets more GOP denial. Rising sea levels put trillions of dollars at risk. Climate costs already hit home. Disasters are linked to warming and they'll only get worse. Those are all bona fide headlines in the newspaper the last week. This is ridiculous.
That's alarming. You have that many of them from the newspaper in 1 week. And yet when you go through the real data, for example, you see that Arctic ice is increasing at rates faster than anyone would have imagined. And the data is out there that shows that storms have not gotten any worse. And in fact, for example, this tornado season was very, very late in starting, but we've had tornado seasons, forever since we were in the Midwest to discover them. There have been tornadoes.
We have a caller with a quick question. Please, caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, this Agenda 21, literally every bike path you see, including Burley, in any city across this nation, is all driven by environmental extremism. And so this Agenda 21 is so in our lives, and we don't even know it. And when you have... well, okay, I'm going to go on to a different subject. They said lately that if you kill the soil, that you literally are creating greenhouse gas just by opening the soil, just like a cow who eats something and then, of course, eliminates. That is one of the most disastrous things on earth, the fact that a cow has gas. It's just amazing to me. We have composting, which is literally something that the environmentalists have driven, and we do it now, and the dairymen do it, but you see, the act of composting creates the very same thing as the cow does, and opening the soil, and I'll hang up. Thanks.
I don't know if you could follow all that, Marita, but I'd like you to kind of specifically talk to all of us that are involved in the cow business. Are we going to get shut down because of methane gas? Are these people that crazy?
Well, yes, they are crazy, and in fact, the piece that I wrote today about the Center for Biological Diversity, one of their goals is to get cows off of federal lands. They're really trying to block all ranching, federal or private lands. And the way that they're able to do that is by proclaiming that there is some endangered species present on the land where ranching is being done, where energy development is taking place. And it's not that they're going to say, for example, we've probably all seen, at least all ranchers have probably seen cartoons of the cows with like a catalytic converter sticking out their back end that's designed to capture that methane. Well, the way they're working on it is not by banning cows. It's not by saying you have to put a catalytic converter on every cow to catch the methane, but really is to stop ranching. And I believe that's part of the issue behind the whole Bundy Ranch issue. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether Bundy was right or whether Bundy was wrong, but what they did to Bundy struck a chord with ranchers, I believe, throughout the West, who are tired of the government overreach, and they're trying to chase ranchers off the land. And one of the excuses that they're using for that is climate change. And that's also, as silly as it is, a lot behind the movement towards vegetarianism or veganism, is that we need to stop eating beef because these cows, flatulate, and out comes methane. It's crazy.
Boy, crazy is the key word. I've only got a limited amount of time left, Marita, and I'd like you to discuss something else that just absolutely falls under the category of crazy. The American public should be outraged. We should be dancing in the streets mad at every politician to spend $150 a gallon for algae jet fuel at $30,000 to fill it up per jet when we could be spending $2.85 a gallon. Where's the outrage?
Well, they've done the same thing for the Navy, that the Navy is mandated to purchase, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a certain amount of green, biofuel, gasoline that has been derived from plant sources. And, the technology is there to do that. We do know how to make ethanol from corn. We know how to make biofuel or jet fuel from algae. But to make it in the quantities that are required, to make it in a commercially viable quantity, they're just not there. And so you're right, the public should be absolutely outraged over this foolish expenditures. And see, realize, as I said earlier, a lot of these programs, a lot of these initiatives started back in 2006, 2007, when there was a true perception that we in America were facing an energy shortage. And as a result of the proposed energy shortage, we then needed to invest in all these alternative sources. And now, with America's new energy abundance, these alternatives, these extremely expensive, as you've mentioned, alternatives, they just plain look foolish these days. And as you've mentioned, the American public should be outraged. And I just want to remind your listeners, as I often say, and as I say in the closing chapter of my book, Energy Freedom, that you need to have your senator and representatives' phone numbers and emails in your phone. You need to contact them. And I find many times people are afraid because they think they're going to get into a shouting match with their congressman. No. You're going to get a 23-year-old intern who answers the phone and writes down your comment and puts a checklist in a column of your people are for or against. But we've all seen cases, think of Joe Manchin, Democrat Joe Manchin right now, where based on what a candidate or a representative's public wants, they take a position that's different from their party. And so it's important that people express outrage to their representatives over this foolish, jet fuel program that you mentioned.
Absolutely. We have one time, one call. Quickly, go ahead, caller, with your question real fast.
Hey, Zeb, is it a fact that the railroads that are shipping the fuel from Canada down here are charging $30 a barrel, and Keystone would knock that down to $10 a barrel, which would lower the price of fuel?
We'll have her answer that on the air. Marita, what about the difference in cost, rail versus the pipeline on Keystone?
It's definitely right. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it is definitely more costly and more dangerous to be shipping the oil via rail, but we're doing it. And as many people are aware, we're doing it at least in part because Warren Buffett owns the rail line that the oil is being transported on. And, he's an Obama buddy, and he makes some very nice profit off of shipping that oil via rail.
I'm going to have to do this, Marita. I'm going to have to ask you to come back possibly in the next couple of days because I've got a full gamut of questions I didn't even get a chance for. The author of Energy Freedom, Marita Noon from New Mexico. God bless you, and please, I'm going to call you. We'll reestablish another time, and we'll go through this again. Thank you so much.
I'm here for you. Thank you, Zeb. Have a good day.
You bet. Thank you much. I just wished I wouldn't run out of time so fast. That lady is excellent. Marita Noon from New Mexico, author and speaker. She goes all over the United States. She is a thorn in the side of politicians. God bless her. And I'll have her back on in the next couple of days, and we'll finish our topic on this in regards to energy or the lack of with the government. Okay? Stay tuned for that. Right now, I think what we'll do... Let me check my notes here. I think we better have this good word on the air real quick for Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Brad Little for Lieutenant Governor, vote May 20th. Don't forget, Idaho is always an example for what conservative governance looks like. And Brad Little, Idaho rancher and small businessman, wants to help Idaho raise incomes and create jobs. And yes, there's more work to do, and Brad has rolled up his sleeves to help. And he knows a good education is the key to building a skilled, progressive workforce. Vote for Brad Little for Lieutenant Governor on May 20th, paid for by Senator Dean Cameron to re-elect Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that tomorrow, I believe this gentleman's going to be on the air with us. Chris Jensen, running for Minidoka County Sheriff. 24 years of law enforcement. Zero tolerance for drugs and gangs, and believes in experienced and dedicated law enforcement, ethical and honest, open-minded, and financially accountable. Chris Jensen wants your vote on May 20th. He wants to bring new leadership, a new vision, and a new direction to the Minidoka County Sheriff's Office by seeking the elected office of sheriff, and again wants your vote on May 20th. Chris Jensen for Minidoka County Sheriff, paid for by the citizens. For Chris Jensen, Barbara Jensen, Treasurer. Hey, by the way, on Thursdays, we also have Vicky's Country Gardens, Gardening for Idiots, named after me. But I don't know that much about gardening, but I'm learning. And don't forget Vicky's Country Garden, and they're located at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. She's got everything for your gardens. Everything for your gardens. And a great gift shop over there, too. And you can get gift certificates, give them to your friends, everything. Vicky's Country Garden serving you. Don't forget, we have that program at 9:12 on Thursdays, Gardening for Idiots. Vicky's Country Gardens on the Paul Burley Highway. We are at this time going to send it back over to our main studios. We're going to have this update with what's happening in the Magic Valley, and then we'll be back, so stay tuned.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. And again, I want to say thank you to Senator from District 25, Jim Patrick, a farmer and senator that has really done a great job for us. And he wants to say thank you to everyone who supported him, and he appreciates all the support. And he tells everybody, please get out and vote on May 20th and let your voices be heard. Jim, of course, understands agriculture with the Ag Security Bill and all the different water issues. Please understand this man's working for you and the state of Idaho. District 25 Senator Jim Patrick, paid for by Jim Patrick for Senate, District 25. Also, ladies and gentlemen, there's a man running for the first term as Jerome County Commissioner, District 1, and that's Mr. Bill Baker, and he has expertise from 35 years career with the BLM, where he held the position as Twin Falls District Manager and was responsible for the annual budgets of over $20 million. He's fiscally conservative and believes in keeping budgets lean and balanced, and will actively work for Jerome County attaining significant short-term milestones while guaranteeing meaningful economic development and stability. He wants your vote on May 20th. Bill Baker seeking first term as Jerome County Commissioner in District 1 and paid for by Bill Baker for Jerome County Commissioner. Before we get our guest on the program for this hour, I would at this time, Gina, could we have that good word for Congressman Mike Simpson?
Personal injury lawyer Brian Smith is trained to say anything to win. Yet Idaho newspapers called Brian Smith's negative attacks against conservative Republican Mike Simpson false. Patently false. Smith is using negative false attacks to hide the truth about his debt collection business that's collected millions, targeting veterans, the disabled, seniors struggling to pay medical bills. Smith's debt collection business has charged interest rates as high as 99%. 99%! One bankruptcy attorney reports Smith's debt collection business triggered as many as half of all bankruptcies filed in Bonneville County. An Idaho judge said Smith's fees were excessive, the debt collection business unconscionable. A peer called Smith inflexible, a brute, a bully. The Better Business Bureau gave Smith's debt collection business an F. False attacks, targeting the vulnerable, predatory interest rates. Personal injury lawyer and debt collector Brian Smith is out for himself, not you.
I'm Mike Simpson, and I approve this message, paid for by Citizens of Congress.
Thank you very much. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, going to the phone line, and I have the utmost respect for this man and what he is doing. He's a national security analyst for the Clarion Project and an adjunct professor of Homeland Security, Ryan Morrow. Ryan, good morning. Good to have you back on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Ryan, I guess just simply put, to start off our conversation, I don't feel so comfortable anymore with our security. I don't feel that we're doing enough to protect ourselves from the bad guys, whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's all these little training camps around the United States that senators and congressmen just kind of scoff their noses at. What is the status of our security today, coming from a person like you that really knows? How safe are we?
I think we are safer from an attack that's very sophisticated, like the 9/11 style, but the current trends do show that terrorism continues to increase, and so what the future looks more like is sort of like Israel, where you have many bombings and shootings happening quite frequently on a small scale, as opposed to your periodic 9/11 style attack. Now, over the long term, I think that that's actually more damaging, the scenario where you don't know if a shopping mall is going to get shot at, even if it just kills 1 to 2 people. But if you have that happening on a consistent basis around the world, that becomes a problem that's much harder to handle. And I think that Boko Haram is an example of the threat that we face today and are going to increasingly face in the future, where you have Al-Qaeda type affiliates that are out there willing to commit heinous crimes, and they don't have to do so as part of an international superstructure. Boko Haram is linked to Al-Qaeda, but they're not operationally controlled by the chief, Ayman al-Zawahiri.
You know, Ryan, you do this for a living every day as a security analyst. You must absolutely, I feel sorry for you. You've got to get depressed every day thinking about all these different groups, whether it's the Muslim Brotherhood, whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's Hamas. All these people, all they want to do is kill and maim. I mean, my goodness, how do you keep your sanity?
Well, I pay attention to a lot of the positive trends that are out there. For example, there is a huge backlash against the Muslim radicals. Boko Haram, for example, their popularity has fallen 24% in Nigeria among the Muslim population since 2010. And only about 2%, just 2% of Nigerian Muslims express a favorable opinion of them. So there are very positive trends, but unfortunately when you are dealing with bloodthirsty maniacs like Boko Haram that have no regard for human life, it doesn't take much support in order to cause mayhem, and their numbers are going to grow just as the world population grows, even if they're a small minority.
Are we being, I don't even know how to phrase this, but I'm sure you've been asked this question before. Are we being the United States, are we being duped into getting involved in Nigeria to the point where basically we could get ourselves in trouble, basically assaulting of people on their soil? Are we going to get ourselves with boots on the ground that's going to get us in trouble over there?
I don't think so. Even if things were to take a turn for the worse and Americans were to get killed, Boko Haram has said for years that they're targeting the United States, so we're not picking a fight with someone that doesn't already hate us. The Nigerian population has not protested or expressed any type of anger over the fact that there's American and French and British specialists and troops on the ground assisting in the fight against Boko Haram. So the population's on our side, and Boko Haram is going to have to be confronted in Nigeria and its base eventually anyway. So I don't think that this is a trap, and I think it's important to recognize that groups like Boko Haram may have local ambitions where they focus just on the territory around them, but over the long term they'll all say that they want to implement Sharia governance in the region and target the United States, if not now, then eventually.
How concerned are you of the naivete of our leaders, be it Barack Hussein Obama, be it Eric Holder, be it possibly the next president of the United States, Hillary Clinton? I just look at this, either it's a naivete or it's a sweep it under the rug attitude. What are your thoughts?
I think that they are awake to the threat that Al-Qaeda type affiliates present in terms of carrying out terrorist operations. I don't believe that they understand the ideology driving Al-Qaeda. There's two schools of thought in academia, in the government, everywhere, and they both have experts on each side. The first school of thought, and this is the one that the Obama administration, I believe, subscribes more to, says that Al-Qaeda's methods are horrible, but they're basically reacting out of anger over things like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, an over-aggressive American foreign policy, America being the policeman of the world, and so it's causing them to lash out in these extreme ways, and a lot of people think that way. The other school of thought, which is the one that I subscribe to, says that no matter what these political differences are with these groups, I believe that those grievances stem from their ideological worldview, that their anger isn't caused by things like anger over American foreign policy. It's actually caused by how they interpret their religion and their ideology, and that's where that worldview comes from. So they may be angry over U.S. support to Israel or U.S. troops in Afghanistan, but the reason that they're angry like that in the first place and view the U.S. as an enemy is because they adhere to a radical Islamic ideology, and that's the starting point.
Why are they so prominent today as opposed to a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc.? America. We've always had as an ally Israel. We've always adhered to the fact that they are our most important friend over in that region, and we will do anything to protect them. Why are these groups coming out of the woodwork more so today than ever before?
I don't know that they are. I think that it's just they're getting more international attention. Terrorism has increased sharply over the past year. According to the State Department, there's been a 40% increase in the number of terrorist attacks. That's largely due to growing conflicts in places like Iraq and Syria. There's been a 60% increase in the number of fatalities due to terrorist attacks over the past year. So it is increasing, but I think that they were already years ago trying to cause as much mayhem as possible. So I think the real question is, why is this getting international attention? And I think that there's two watershed moments. Or actually, there's three. The first was the release of Honor Diaries, which the Clarion Project was part of, which caused an international debate about the state of women's rights in the Muslim world. It's an excellent documentary. Following that were two incidents carried out by Islamic radicals. The first happened in Brunei, when the government instituted Sharia law with its horrific punishments for gays and women, and Hollywood actually took notice and are boycotting a hotel in Beverly Hills owned by the government of Brunei. And then the second is what Boko Haram just did, where they kidnapped 300 girls that were just going to school. And so you put those two incidents together following the debate about Honor Diaries, and what you've had is all this news converge into one spot, and now even Hollywood is paying attention to this problem we have with Sharia law and how it's driving terrorism and acts of oppression around the world.
Ryan, as much as you study this, and like I said, this is a 24/7, 365 job for you, you mentioned earlier about Al-Qaeda and Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood and Boko Haram, political groups. I can't even hang the name political on these people. They're nothing more than trained killers, and that's all their mission in life is. I mean, the best way to treat them is not politically, but just to put a 357 up next to their head. We have nothing to gain by catering to these people.
And catering actually vindicates their worldview. One of the points that's very often forgotten is how radical Islamists judge whether they're in accordance with God's will. If they win on the battlefield and they see the enemy submitting, then they believe Allah is on their side and approves of their activity. But if you beat them in the battlefield and they don't see any gains on the ground due to their activity, some Islamic theologians will preach, oh, well, that's because God's actually punishing you and does not agree with your methods or with your strategy. And in the past, there have been prominent Islamic radicals that have turned against Al-Qaeda because of them getting beat in Afghanistan and getting beat in Iraq and elsewhere in the world. And they draw the conclusion, well, if you are consistently beat on the battlefield, then God is not coming to your side and you're doing something wrong. And that's why it's important whenever we engage these individuals in the battlefield, even if you believe it's the wrong battlefield like the invasion of Iraq that you felt was, you have to win, because a loss inspires an entire new generation of jihadists who believe that God signaled to them that this is what you're supposed to do.
You see, now there's a difference right there in terminology, Ryan. I can't say that God is on their side. I believe that they think Allah is on their side, but I think Allah and God naturally are two distinct different beings, and I'm a little bit offended as a Christian that God would be used by them when they go out and mass kill someone at a supermarket or just line them up and execute them. That's not God.
I agree, but Allah is Arabic for God, and so it's actually quite common for Muslims in the United States, even that are radical, to say, oh, well, we believe in God, we just call it Allah. So it's an issue in translation, even though obviously their belief in what God is and what God stands for is far beyond what you and I believe what God is. I mean, it's just incompatible.
One thing I would be amiss if I didn't ask you about is Benghazi. No one, in my opinion, would know more about this than you would. The Democrats are crying foul ball, and the Republicans with Trey Gowdy are going to go after this and get finally the answers after, 14, 15 months. And hopefully we can bring someone to justice over the killing of 4 Americans in Benghazi. What are your thoughts? Is this a good thing, the committee, or do you think it's set up and structured too politically?
I think it's a good thing, but I also think that sometimes the political rhetoric does go a step too far and goes a step beyond what the evidence shows. Because I think that there's a lot of nuance here. There was intelligence and also information in the press at the time saying that there were protests, even if that was false. There are some that are criticizing the administration and saying, oh, they just made it up whole cloth from the beginning. I don't believe that that was the case, because we know from the CIA that information that there were protests happening was present. Now, there's another question about, did the administration, because of political reasons, it being an election year, favor the theory that this was a protest that got out of control? That's a legitimate question, but I don't see the smoking gun just yet. And even though I suspect that that's exactly what happened, and I think there's been too much focus on the issue of, did the administration favor this narrative that it was a protest that got out of control, to the detriment of some of the other issues related to Benghazi that need to be probed. For example, why is it that people that were involved in these attacks and other terrorist elements in Libya have not been brought to justice? Why is it that security was so low at the consulate in Benghazi, permitting this attack to happen? I think those are issues that need to be explored more fully, and we also need to figure out exactly what the CIA was doing in Libya, because we still haven't figured out what the CIA was doing at the annex near the consulate that the terrorists were also targeting.
Ryan, final thought here this morning. No news is good news, probably, out of the Middle East, but we still haven't had any real confirmations that Syria has gotten rid of the chemical weapons. We really don't know what's happening in Iran. We're looking at tinderboxes all over the Middle East with Saudi Arabia problems and everything. What are your thoughts and fears as to what's next on the chessboard? What's going to happen next that we should be ready for in the news?
I think what's happening is a regional realignment. There's essentially 3 blocks in the Middle East right now. There's the Muslim Brotherhood bloc that's led by Turkey and Qatar, 2 supposed American allies. And then you have the second bloc, which is led by Iran and the government of Syria and Hezbollah, the Shiite bloc. And then you have the third bloc, which consists of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the other Gulf countries, which is actually the bloc that's the closest to Israel, even though ideologically most of them still say Israel shouldn't exist. And what's happening now is you're seeing the Muslim Brotherhood, Turkey, Qatar, and Iran all come together. Despite the fact that they're killing each other in the civil war in Syria, there is a move by Turkey and Iran to bring that conflict to a close, to a ceasefire, so that they can unite. And that's a very intimidating prospect. The idea of Turkey, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Iran coming together in essentially a regional alliance is a very intimidating prospect for the West, for our allies and partners in the region, and especially for Israel.
I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the air this morning. I wished I had more time. National Security Analyst with the Clarion Project and also Adjunct Professor of Homeland Security, Ryan Morrow. Ryan, caught you on TV the other day. You looked good, did a great job. Hopefully you'll come back on this show in the future. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much, Seb.
God bless. Ryan Morrow, and this man knows national security, or the lack of. Oh, my. Representative Clark Kaufman, Filer area farmer and small businessman, running for re-election for state representative in District 25, Seat B. This man has done an outstanding job. U.S. Air Force Vietnam veteran, and brings to the table a diverse and long track record of community and industry leadership experience. And he received the Ag All-Star Award for his voting record in both 2013 and 14. And he wants your vote on May 20th. Clark Kaufman for State Representative, District 25, Seat B, paid for by Kaufman for Idaho State Representative for District 25, Seat B, Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. Oh, we got to have a weather forecast real quick. My goodness, I'm a little bit late on that. Michael Rogers Weather brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They've been serving and processing meat in southern Idaho for over 20 years. They offer quality products at very reasonable rates. In addition to the expert meat cutting, they also have their own smokehouse, selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Instead of a brand spanking new week of Union weather, always remember the number one weather fact that is always true, no matter what. And you don't need to have a degree in meteorology to find this out. There's always some form of clearing after a storm, and that's what you're going to get for the next 72 hours. Partly cloudy all the way through Wednesday. 62 for the high today, 68 for the high tomorrow, 70 for the high the day after tomorrow. And oh, by the way, if you're keeping score at home for Thursday, look for a daytime high of 82. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. The best selling taste one bite at a time. Whew, Gina, busy morning over here at the old ranch house. Holy smokes.
You made it.
Had some good guests.
Yes, you did.
Outstanding guests.
I love Marita. She's awesome.
She is going to be coming back on in the next couple of days because there's a lot of things I didn't get a chance to ask her. Hey, by the way, are you familiar? You know who Juan Williams is?
No.
On Fox News? He's a, here I go, I'm associating by color, a black political analyst on the liberal persuasion. His son, Rafi, is a political analyst, but he doesn't follow his dad's footsteps. No. He went completely conservative.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting. For those that have seen this young man, Rafi's about maybe, 23, 24 years old, and he's been featured on many, many conservative talk shows around the country, and I am going to try to get him on here in 2 weeks.
Ooh, I will be looking forward to that segment.
Yes. Let's see, what else have I got for you this morning? We talked a little bit about Mother's Day. It was a great success, and I'm glad you had a good time. What did Kennedy get you for Mom's Day?
He didn't, but that's okay.
He just gave you a hug.
He did, and he said, Mom, I love you. You're the best mom ever.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
That would melt the ice cream right there.
You know it, and so he's just a great little guy. Gotta love him.
Well, 6 years old, huh? Doggone. 7 now.
7.
When did he turn 7?
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, I thought he just turned 6, but now he's 7.
He is 7.
Whoa! We're getting up there.
I know. He thinks he's going on 19 right now.
Tomorrow he's going to go vote.
Well, he would, I'm sure that he would like to.
Tomorrow on the program, we have an interesting group, to say the least. We're going to have a gentleman that's running for Minidoka County Sheriff, and that's Chris Jensen. And we're going to have member Joe Messina that was supposed to be on our program here a week ago. Yes. Well, I called Joe and I said, Joe, what happened? And he very coyly said, I fell asleep.
You know, as long as he was honest about it.
Yeah. And then Dr. History is going to be on tomorrow, and George Mass is going to be here tomorrow. And I'm going to go out and try to figure. I sat outside yesterday in the cold. It was cold last night. And I sat outside with the 20 gauge trying to get the starlings. And I didn't even come close.
Not even close, huh?
I did get a shot off.
And?
I did get a shot off.
You didn't damage the truck, did you?
No, I was aiming the other way, but, you know, they're frustrating. I mean, 14 straight days. Think about this, and Dave Zanino's probably listening over to Paul. He's laughing his sides out at me. 14 straight days, 14 new nests. These birds are dedicated.
Well, they apparently have some love for your truck.
Well, I don't understand why they're picking on my truck. Nobody else can tell me about this. I mean, they go up underneath the wheel wells, and it takes a lot of effort to get there, and they're building not one but 2 nests, one on each side of the hood, and I can't discourage them. I go out every day, I pick it out of there, I clean it out, then I vacuum with a shop vac, and the next day, and I'm going to bet you a steak dinner that they're out there doing their thing right now.
They're determined. And see, here's why they're building two, because they know you're going to wreck one, so they figure they'd build another one just in case, and now next they're going to be building three.
Yeah, but wait, you remember the movie Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds?
Mm-hmm.
And how the birds drove everybody nuts?
Uh-huh.
I'm losing my mind, lady! I can't handle this.
Are you going to hide yourself in like a telephone booth or something?
They'll peck away at the glass and come and get me. I mean, I absolutely can't beat these birds. And what was worse is my laundry bill went up $20 last Friday afternoon. When I opened the hood, one flew out and almost hit me in the face.
I'm telling you, wire mesh. Wire mesh.
Anyway, I got to calm down. I'm just scared to go out and see what the net result is. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the best tire value in the industry. It's your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All the tires with the different tread designs for the cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, everything. They've got great, great tire buys. Now, not only that, free lifetime tire and mileage care, free flat repairs, free tire rotations, free tire rebalancing, free air checks, free brake and alignment checks, hundreds of Les Schwab locations to serve you, but we've got 7 great ones right here in the Magic Valley. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. Of course, don't forget the Twist family over in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best of tires, shocks and struts, brake service, front end alignments, it's all there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. Okie doke. Well, we're going to be back again tomorrow, and we'll bring you an update on the birds. I can't handle it much more anymore. I know we forgot our tip of the coffee cup this morning, but I'm going to say to Mr. and Mrs. Al Butler and George and Gwen Montgomery, tip of the coffee cup. Hope you have a great day for the rest of this Monday. And we're going to be back tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zebeth Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell. Tune in. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.